I just said to Amy, they're never this quiet. You're so quiet. Well, we're going to fix that right now. We're going to sing an in-gathering song together called Building Bridges. It's number 1030. I'm sorry, no. Yes, Building Bridges, 1023. There was so much music today, and I'm so confused. 1023 in the hymnal, but the words will appear on the screen magically soon. And this is one we've sung before. It comes to us from the women of Greenham Common peace occupation in 1983. The tune is one you may know. And I'd like to start it off in unison, and then we'll sing it around for a little while in two parts, and then we'll end in unison again. So please sing along with me. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices and all of our visions, building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices and all of our visions, building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Good morning, and welcome to First Parish in Concord. My name is Reverend Paul Langston Daly. I use he, him pronouns, and I welcome you all this morning. We are a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregation, and love lies at the center of our faith. We covenant to transform and grow spiritually and ethically as we adapt to the changing world. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life. And in this congregation, we affirm that Black lives matter as we embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. We're glad you're here. If you're visiting us online this morning, welcome. Let's give those folks a wave at the back camera. Hey. If you're visiting in person, we hope that you'll stop by and visit the welcome table and say hello during coffee hour. A couple of quick announcements before we begin our service. I'd like to begin, before I do anything else, by welcoming our guest speaker this morning, Lindsay Donnelly Bullington. She is an itinerant preacher and an aspirant for the Unitarian Universalist Ministry. She's completing her MDiv at Boston University School of Theology and previously served with the UU Ministry for Earth, working with congregational involvement. She's looking forward to serving as an intern minister with First Church in Boston this fall. We welcome Lindsay this morning. Following our service, please consider joining the Worship Sharing Circle, a small group conversation about the worship theme, which is in the Brooks Room and online at the bottom of the stairs. For coffee hour, we invite you to join us. Zoom, if you stay online after the service, you're welcome to connect with others. And if you're here in person, we invite you down to the parlor. As always, we have space in the Wiggle Room, which is our parlor downstairs. If you have children with you this morning, there's lots to do, and the service is broadcast in there. Our standing committee rep this morning is Lisa Bennett. Yay. Thank you, Lisa. So if you have any questions about the congregation and what we do here, please see Lisa, and she'll help you and direct you to whoever you might want to talk to. During coffee hour, the Welcoming Walls Committee will be showing the evolving slideshow, so please take a minute to watch that. Our environmental justice team has an Earth Day table at coffee hour today, so please stop by. And at 3 p.m., we hope you'll join the First Parish Reclaim Our Democracy team to help build a powerful, inclusive, collaborative democracy movement here in the Parish Hall. We're glad you're here this morning as we celebrate Earth Day together. And I invite you to join us in our first hymn, number 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness. Our opening words this morning are from Jerry Kishpa Hildebrand and Shirley Ann Rank. They write, committed to respond to the call of the wounded world, we join together this day with loving hearts, hands, and minds. Embracing the interconnected web of water, earth, and air, we light a fire of sustaining hope, ever bright with love and justice. May we bring forth this day new wisdom, strength, and courage to create a new world, not of wealth, but of well-being. A new world of peace and abundance for all. As we give thanks for this earth, our shared and singular home, may we dedicate ourselves to its ongoing care, rising to the calls deep within us and all around us. May we respond today and always with courage and love. Welcome. I invite you now to join us in our chalice lighting. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of others, this sacred, essential moment now.
Before I begin our wisdom story this morning, I want to point out two things. This beautiful creation, a spiritual expression from our flower committee, comes to us today from the artist Faxon Green. And up on the screen, there is an illustration by Nazreen Khan, which was selected to illustrate the story. For those of you who I have not had a chance to meet, I'm the Reverend Amy Friedman. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the Minister of Religious Education. And our story today comes to us from the Reverend Kelly Dignan, who is the co-director of UU Ministry for Earth. Once upon a time, there was a child named Alex, a deep soul with a heart full of love. Alex spent countless hours under the shade of wise old trees in their backyard. One in particular was Alex's favorite. One sunny day, as the leaves whispered secrets in the breeze, Alex decided to express their feelings to that tree by writing a love letter. With a box of crayons and a sheet of paper, they poured their emotions onto the page. The letter began, "Dear tree, you're my best buddy. Your leaves are like green confetti, and your branches are my favorite hiding spots." Alex wrote about memories shared with the tree, picnics beneath its branches, reading stories, and even daydreaming about far-off lands. The letter spoke of the tree's strength and resilience, and the beauty it brought to the garden. Alex marveled at the way that the tree sheltered the birds and the insects and created a harmonious ecosystem. Carefully folding up the letter, Alex nestled it into a small nook in the tree's branches. "This is for you, my dearest friend." Feeling a warm connection to their living friend, the tree. One stormy night, a powerful wind blew through the town, and the next morning, Alex rushed outside to find a small branch had been cracked by the storm. Sadness washed over Alex, but determination sparkled in their eyes. With care and creativity, Alex worked with their parents to gather rope and other supplies, and together they mended the branch. "You protect me from the sun, now I'll protect you." Lo and behold, after several months, the wood on the small branch fused back together again and a new leaf sprouted. Through all the seasons, the bond between Alex and the tree grew stronger. Their friendship became a beacon of love and resilience, teaching everyone that even the smallest act of kindness makes a difference. That's one of those stories that doesn't really have an end, right? It's the beginning. And today, in our religious exploration, we will be celebrating Earth Day by creating our own prayer flags for the earth. And little RE has already begun. If any of you have young ones with you, you're welcome to bring them down to the Mill Dam Nursery School space. Kindergarten through 7th grade are actually together today up in the Emerson Room. I want to invite our volunteers to come forward to help lead the children out. And 8th grade OWL, of course, has already begun. Let's join together in song.
At this time in our service, we give generously for all of the work that we do both within these walls and beyond these walls. Our Share the Plate this morning is, for this month, the month of April, is One Tree Planted. One Tree Planted was established in 2014, and working with local organizations, it plants trees in 47 countries and has doubled the number of trees planted annually since it was founded. In 2022, One Tree planted 52 million trees. Each tree helps reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the environment, mitigating the more dangerous impacts of climate change. For strength, resilience, shade, and beauty in all seasons, we hope you will give generously to our collection this morning as we share our plate with One Tree Planted. Thank you for your generous gifts.
Morning. My name is Lindsay Donnelly Bullington, and I am so pleased to be joining you today for worship. Our reading this morning comes from the composer Pauline Oliveros. She writes, "What is deep listening? To hear physically means that vibrations or waveforms that are within the range of human hearing can be transmitted to the auditory complex by the ear and perceived as sounds. I differentiate to hear and to listen. To hear is the physical means that enables perception. To listen is to give attention to what is perceived both acoustically and psychologically. Deep has to do with complexity and boundaries or edges between ordinary or habitual understandings, like the subject is too deep for me, or she is a deep one. A subject that is too deep surpasses one's present understanding or has too many unknown parts to grasp easily. A deep one defies stereotypical knowing and may take either a long time or never to understand or get to know. Deep listening, for me, is learning to expand the perception of sounds to include the whole space-time continuum of sound, encountering the vastness and complexities as much as possible. Simultaneously, one ought to be able to target a sound or a sequence of sounds as a focus, and to perceive the detail or trajectory of the sound or sequence of sounds. Such focus should always return to or be within the whole of the context. Such expansion means that one is connected to the whole environment and beyond. Here ends the reading. When I was younger, I found a list online. I think it was from Rolling Stone magazine, but I'm not so sure. It was a list of the 10 most unlistenable albums of all time. Now, of course, being the contrarian that I've always been, I had to find that out for myself. I had to listen to them myself. One of these albums sticks out to me, but it takes a bit of a story. It's all apocryphal. It's probably not true. I certainly can't verify any of it. So listen to it as a good story, not as good journalism. It starts with a piece of bad criticism that the musician Lou Reed got on his 4th album, about which a critic wrote something like, "Shut up and play the guitar." He's not known as the best vocalist, really. So he saw that criticism and he said, "Sure, I'll do just that." For his 5th album, he recorded 64 minutes of nothing but feedback and distortion. Just guitar, no melody, no rhythm. He called it metal machine music, and that's a pretty good description of what it sounds like. Now, I'd put up with a lot in my time making it through that list. I found some great stuff, honestly, but some of it was truly awful. But this one gave me pause in a different way. I didn't know what to make of it. When I tried to listen to it, all I got was that wall of noise, no pathway in. The other albums, they would eschew some musical conventions. Sometimes they'd be making a clear artistic statement, or other times they'd just have really no talent. But this one was different. A professor of mine in seminary, he often recounts a story of a music composition or appreciation course that he took. In the class, he listened to a recording of a Beethoven piece that he was really familiar with, but this time he heard it while reading the score for the first time. Having the score in front of him let him hear some parts of the music that he hadn't noticed before. The score let him listen for harmonies and syncopations and rhythms that were already there in the music, but he hadn't been primed to notice them. The score helped him move from a passive hearing through a more active listening to into an even more active and assisted listening for. I haven't tried to go back to metal machine music, but I've learned that if I were to, I might find something else to pay attention to. Not just the joke, but an artistic statement. Reed has said that he modulated some of the effects in parts of the album to reference that same Beethoven piece, actually, and to reference other more contemporary avant-garde composers. I don't feel much need right now, but now that I'm primed with something kind of like a score, a way to encounter the album on its own terms, I might have a better clue how to appreciate it more than the squeaks and drones that I noticed before. But I've learned about another way of listening that I hadn't considered before. Not listening to, not listening for, but listening with. The composer and sound artist Ania Lockwood coined this phrase, listening with, as far as I know. She said, "It's my sense that if I'm standing here, I'm just one of many organisms that are listening with one another within this environment." Another time, she wrote a short poem, listening with the neighborhood at midnight or at dawn, indoors or outdoors. Listening with an awareness that all around you are other life forms simultaneously listening and sensing with you. Plant roots, owls, centipedes, cicadas, mutually intertwined within the web of vibrations which animate and surround our planet. Listening to feel that I am one with all these phenomena. Can I know it? I listen to know it. What we are at one with, we cannot harm. I love that line. Ania has been recording rivers for decades, sticking a microphone underwater and listening with this incidental orchestra we're usually kept from. While she records, she listens with her headphones, able to get a live feedback of what's being recorded. She listens with her microphone, which can get a cleaner, crisper sound than what our ears would be able to when full of water. And she listens with all the rest of that aquatic ecosystem. She'll record up and down a river and create what she calls a sound map of a river, a sound document of time and place. And then we can listen with her, and with her headphones, and with her microphone, and with the rest of that ecosystem in that moment. Tomorrow is Earth Day, so I promise that the point of this sermon is not just to think about a bunch of strange musicians, but let me stick on them for just a second. I was feeling pretty inspired by Ania Lockwood and by her friend, the composer Pauline Oliveros, the author of our reading from this morning. Oliveros is an advocate of a practice of deep listening, and one of her practices for learning deep listening is to make a field recording, kind of like one of Ania's sound maps. I was lucky at the top of this month, and I got to make it up to Maine to see the eclipse in the path of totality. I figured that I would practice my deep listening and make a field recording during those 2 or 3 minutes of totality so that I could listen with what the eclipse sounded like, what the ecosystem was doing when the sight part wasn't so fascinating. But when we found a spot to park, I almost felt let down. It was a beautiful spot on a beautiful, warm, but still snowy day. I was on a mountain overlooking a frozen lake, and I really couldn't have asked for a better spot. But I felt that my plans to listen to the eclipse were foiled by the lines of cars parked in every crevice. Annie Dillard wrote about witnessing a total eclipse that was like all these people had joined together to pray for the earth on its last day. Maybe the Southern girl in me came out when my first thought was that it looked more like a tailgate than a prayer. I'd planned to listen to the birds and the wind, and I felt that all these people and all this spectacle would get in the way. A nearby grocery store was the whole area's restroom respite, so the line lasted easily 30 minutes at any given moment. Kids played hand clap games and started the wave in the line. Stuck in that line when the partial eclipse started, I heard folks so excited to get back out and witness through homemade contraptions and dark glasses. I heard quick peer lessons on eclipses when others in line were upset that they might miss it if they didn't make it out in the next 5 minutes. "Don't worry, you have an hour," they said. As a writer and as a preacher, I'm taught to eavesdrop, to listen to the world around me, the conversations on the train, the robin singing way earlier or way later than it usually does. And I've gotten quite good at this eavesdropping. While I was in that line, I learned I wasn't the only one eavesdropping, and private questions became engaged answers and new ideas from other parts of the line. Without changing my behavior, I learned I was already listening with the rest of the line. By the time I was able to rush back to my friends with my eclipse glasses, there were already so many more cars parked around us. A middle schooler had his homemade eclipse viewing contraption, but he seemed more interested in his civics classes than his science class, holding up a sign and chanting, "No homework without representation." And then rolling down a hill, hardly ever looking up. All the stories and the spiritualizations, I guess, of the eclipse that I tend to hear speak about a battle between good and evil, where sometimes the evil overcomes, or in other versions, sometimes even when it looks like the evil has overcome, really good will win out in just 2 minutes. I don't think that's a very gripping story, though. Forgive me for jumping over the totality, because I'll come back to that, but as soon as the light of the sun re-emerged afterwards, we got back in our car and fought to merge onto a street out of town and back to Boston, despite there still being like a 98% eclipse viewable, and that seems like something that you would make a trip for anyway, right? I don't think very many of us were interested in that story of triumph or victory or even of resilience right then. When the shadow of the moon shot across our field of vision, launching at something like 3,000 miles an hour, we clapped. And then clapping wasn't enough, so we shouted. And then shouting wasn't enough, so we screamed. And then screaming wasn't enough, so we sat in silence. They call moments of spiritual sorrow dark nights of the soul. But that dark afternoon was so soulful, so life-giving. I realized I could still totally hear the birds and the wind through the people. I learned that I wasn't hearing them alone. Actually, in my distracted reveling in the dark, I heard others whisper to each other, "Do you hear those birds?" Just like with metal machine music, I'd certainly been hearing them. And I'd even made the decision to listen to the eclipse. But I realized I still hadn't heard the birds. But now I could listen with my new temporary neighbors as the daybirds came back to roost and the evening birds came out prematurely. Listening to the birds, I realized I hadn't ever started recording the music of the eclipse. I jumped from my phone and started a voice memo that spanned just the last 15 seconds of totality. As the light came back, we clapped and shouted and screamed again. I think not as much for the sun's return as for the moon's great performance. We, its gracious audience. I learned to listen with the eclipse, to listen with the birds and the wind, yes, and to listen with the hundreds around me, amazed in this transcendent, cosmic wonder of a celestial event. I saw online afterwards that the eclipse and all of its associated fanfare cost $700 million in lost productivity. Now, the Unitarian Universalist and the religious naturalist in me can't help but feel proud of that number, right? In this world of climate change, of environmental destruction and injustice, what a relief it is to stand in line for so long at a grocery store bathroom because so many people are captivated by the wonder of the earth. What a relief it is to hear that a 2-minute phenomenon will cause people to travel hours away. What great traffic to be in. What great company to listen with. Maybe there is something still to Annie Dillard's words, that it was like everyone was gathered to pray for the earth on its last day. Though she was writing about the eclipse of 1979, the dread and anxiety that some call eco-grief has only grown in its manifestations since then, with ongoing debates about whether such a widespread response should be pathologized and diagnosable through the DSM. How would we pray for the earth on its last day, I wonder? I think it might be by traveling hours away to be gathered in huge groups to clap and shout and scream. With love at the center of our faith and of our works towards climate justice, maybe we can pray for the earth with our relationships, by listening with one another. Maybe we can do it with a love letter, like in the wisdom story. I wonder what relationships you have that help you listen with the world around you, or that remind you that you're already listening with. When we remember our relationships, our interdependence, we are changed. Like Aeneas said, what we are at one with, we cannot harm. Spirit of life, in the symphony of our days, may we discover harmony in the cacophony, beauty in the mundane, and wisdom in the whispers of nature, together in interdependent and interconnected community, always, already. May we be guided by our values as we adjust the radio dials of our faith to center love in the midst of grief, of destruction, of anger. May the practice of deep listening, of listening with, guide our actions and deepen our connection to each other, to the world, and to the divine within and around us. As we listen, may we find communion with the sacred mysteries of existence. Amen, and blessed be.
Each week we gather to share and learn together to build this community and strengthen one another, both virtually and here in person. In this community, we hold each other with gentle, open hands. And we hold in our thoughts and prayers all those who are struggling, who are finding time difficult, who are seeking comfort and love. I invite you in this time now to say the names aloud of those in this space, or if you're online, to type them into the chat, and to share with us all those that are on your hearts and minds this morning. We acknowledge and hold in our hearts and prayers, spoken and unspoken among us, all of those. We also hold in our hearts all those who have yet to find a community in which to share their joys and sorrows. May they find peace. May they find love. And I invite you now to pray with me an adapted prayer from an unknown author. O God of love, grant us the grace to grow deeper in our respect and care for your creation. Spirit of love, hear our prayer. Help us to recognize the sacredness of all your creatures as a sign of your wondrous love. Help us to remember no human being, no matter where they are from, their social status or housing status, or any status at all. All human beings are part of your creation and sacred signs of your wonderful love. Help us remember that all life is sacred. All beings are sacred and part and signs of your wonderful love. God of love, help us turn from the selfish consumption of resources meant for all, and to see the impacts of our choices on your creation, on this planet, and on each other. Hear our prayer. Open our hearts and minds. Strengthen us in the coming days and years. Give us the courage to place the life of our planet over monetary profits. Grant us the wisdom to allow our creativity and innovative spirit to guide us in new ways. May we walk in beauty, remembering beautiful, remembering and projecting beauty onto the world. Spirit of love, hear our prayer. May it be so, and amen.
Closing words, the words of Assata Shakur. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Please join me in singing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community. These we keep with us until we are together again. And I invite you to join me in our unison benediction. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please be seated for our postlude.